Hello, I'm Mel McGinnis, and this is the Sophie Scholl monologue. Unlike Rush Limbaugh, I am not a highly trained broadcast specialist, but I use what training I have to speak into the intersection people want to avoid. That intersection, the crossing of politics and religion. We need to do it. Michael Knowles, commentator, said this recently. The most privileged use the most desperate for removing Trump, even if it means destroying the neighborhoods where the most desperate live. I'll say that again. The most privileged use the most desperate for removing Trump, even if it means destroying the neighborhoods where the most privileged live. Tweeting with a picture of a building going up in flames during the riots over George Floyd, Chris Palmer, former ESPN basketball analyst, tweeted, "Burn that expletive down. Burn it all down!" A couple of nights later, as the rioters attacked a neighborhood nearby to Palmer, he then tweeted, "They just attacked our sister community down the street. It's a gated community, and they tried to climb the gates. They had to beat them back, and now they're in front of my building. Get these animals out of my neighborhood and go back to where you live. Tear up your own expletive. Don't come where we live at and tear our neighborhood up. We care about our community. If you don't care about yours, I don't give a expletive." In a sigh of relief, Palmer later tweeted, "Well, they're gone. Security called the cops. Some rioters scattered, others were arrested. You hate to see it. Tense moments. There's graffiti everywhere. We live in a beautiful, safe community and have pride. These people have no pride and weren't protesters." So said, or so tweeted, Chris Palmer. The building which burnt down, the building that Palmer cheered on to be burnt, was an affordable housing development under construction with 189 units and scheduled for opening later this year. It all sits in a heap of smoldering ashes. And he said later, "Obviously I didn't choose the right words. It was a crazy weekend, lots of stress and panic. It's a mother. I don't endorse property destruction in any form. I'm not perfect, but I will work at it. Be well and take care." He may as well have said, "Be well, minority neighborhoods," as rioters, or, let's be politically correct, peace-challenged protesters of BLM and Antifa left your homes, your schools, and your businesses in shambles and burn it all down. Don't worry, it'll all work out. You see, Palmer illustrates what Michael Knowles said. The most privileged use the most desperate to accomplish their agenda, even if it means destroying the neighborhoods where the most desperate live. Chicagoan Gianna Caldwell on the Hugh Hewitt Show spoke of the National Guard being in Chicago during the recent riots. They were protecting only the downtown area, part of the city, the place known, or the place that the left would call the privileged place. The National Guard wasn't in the South Side or West Side, where the poor neighborhoods and the minority businesses which experienced the looting, vandalism, and destruction of their businesses were. The privileged left in Chicago had the city guarded only at the place of privilege. For 50 years, the Democrats and the left have held the levers of power in cities, and yet cities with large minority populations are hardly better off now than what they were back then. Is the family unit better off? Is the standard of living better off? Housing security better off? Police departments run by Democrat administrations better off? Is this institutional racism or institutional betrayal? A term that Robert Woodson describes blacks in a system run by blacks who have been running the cities where the blacks live. He's a former civil rights activist. He used to head the National Urban League Department of Criminal Justice. Seeing what was going on, he now takes a whole different view from the former one he had. You see, blacks are a political tool, or I should say a tool of political leverage for the left. They're an object of electoral dependability to get the agenda of the left into the seat of power. In a column entitled, "The Left Cares Nothing About Blacks," Dennis Prager wrote, "The angrier a black person is at America, the more likely he or she is to vote Democrat." Some years ago, after talking to listeners of every race on his radio show for decades, he came up with this riddle. What do you call a happy black person? Answer: a Republican. Though I'm not one, I gotta admit that's pretty funny. To the left, blacks are not real people as much as they are an electoral bloc, says Prager. How else can you explain Joe Biden's recent comment? If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. The contempt for blacks from his sentiment that one is not black unless one is Democrat, to use his word of the word ain't, is obvious to anyone who isn't on the left. Further proof that the left really doesn't care about blacks is that the left really doesn't even care about any group at all. The left uses groups to attain power, to give themselves moral legitimacy. It's like using apologies as a tool for power. Seeing BLM putting pressure on people to apologize. Is it about the apology or the power to get an apology, as if there's some kind of scalp? These are things we need to look into and understand the biblical perspective of apology, the right use of power, and protesting in a peaceful assembly, like the First Amendment says. Well, unlike Tony Kornheiser, I cannot promise you that I will do better the next time.